Okay, so today I'm going to be doing my January monthly wrap, talking all the books I read in the month of January. Can you believe we are already in February? I certainly cannot. Let me know your thoughts and feelings on how quickly the year is going so far in the comments section below. We're going to start this monthly wrap off as I normally do by putting the stats up on the screen in 3, 2, 1, go. For the month of January 2024, I read a total of 12 books. It's been a while since I've read 12 books in a month, and they comprised of 7 cozy mysteries, 2 LGBTIQ+, 2 fantasy paranormals, and 1 classic. To my age groups, and I read 8 adult books, 2 YA books, and 2 middle grades. To my lengths, I read 1 tome and a half, 6 half tomes, and 5 novellas, totaling 3,509 pages. And my star ratings are very much all over the place. I had 4 5 stars, 1 4.5 star, 3 4 stars, and 4 3 stars. The good news being no 2 stars, no 1 star, but other than that, they were all over the place. There were some fantastic standout reads for me in the month of January, and then there were some really, really average, middle of the road reads for me. So let's not waste any more time, and let's jump right on in. The first book that I read for the month of January was this book, Midnight Sun, by Stephanie Meyer. This is on Goodreads marketed as book number 5 in the Twilight Saga series. It is a young adult fantasy, and I gave this book a total of 5 stars. It's tough to say if this should be considered as book number 5. In publishing order, it would be book number 5, but in timeline order, it's probably book 0.5 because it starts off in time-wise, it starts off before what happens in book 1. This book is written from the perspective and point of view of Edward Cullen. For those of you who don't know, in book 1, in Twilight, we follow our protagonist, Bella Swan. Bella meets a guy by the name of Edward in book 1. I won't spoil any more than that, although you probably already read the books or seen them, so you probably already know. But either way, in this particular book, in Midnight Sun, we follow Edward's perspective. So, yeah. I really enjoyed this book. It took me 5 days to get through, but that was more due to the fact that it is an incredibly long book. It's a tome and a half. But yeah, I was quite surprised at how long it was when I initially started, but I really, really enjoyed each and every single moment I had with this book. So yeah, the book is marketed as a YA, but I have to say that it definitely has an adult feeling to it, but that made sense to me given exactly how old Edward actually is. He's an old soul that has had many, many, many life experiences, so it made sense that we're dealing with an adult mind here as opposed to teenagers. So do keep that in mind when you go in. It's marketed as YA, but it comes across more as an adult book than a YA one. That aside, it was fantastic peeking behind the curtain when in Twilight, Bella goes home and we follow her to dream about Edward. In Midnight Sun, we follow Edward and get to experience some amazing conversations with Carlisle, Esme, Alice, Rosalie, and even Emmett. This, for any true Twilight Saga book fan, is an absolute treat to experience because it fills in all the small and big gaps we had in Twilight. I could go on and on, but I don't want this to be a thesis. I'll just add one more thing. Apparently, Stephanie Meyer doesn't want to do any more retellings from Edward's perspective, as she has a tough time emotionally writing from his perspective. I get that and can absolutely appreciate it, but in saying that, I cannot express just how much I'd love to read New Moon from his perspective, given that he's gone for most of that book. But all in all, it was an absolute treat and triumph, a love letter to all Twilight Saga book fans, and I gave this book 5 stars. And if you would like a longer spoiler-free and spoiler review of this book, I actually do have that up on my channel. So the next book that I read for the month of January was this book, which is Roast Mortem by Cleo Coyle. This is book number 9 in the Coffee House Mystery series. It is an adult cozy mystery, and I gave this book a disappointing rating of 3 stars. I do love the series overall. I love the exploration into coffee, all of the intricate tips and tricks, that Cleo Coyle gives us through her protagonist Claire Cosi, but In this one, I just didn't find it as appealing. So the premise of this book is that we continue to follow Claire, who goes with Madame to visit one of Madame's old friends at his bakery coffee shop, and an explosion occurs. Meanwhile, Mike, Claire's boyfriend, a detective, is having issues with his cousin, also named Mike, a fireman. There's a lot of bad blood between them. Claire wants to get to the bottom of both, believing the explosion was not an accident and wanting to know what's going on between the two Mikes. So to my thoughts, I wish there was more Madame in this book than there was. She featured in the first half, and then in the second half, it was like she just, poof, disappeared. Add to this the mystery just really not intriguing me at all, and I found myself really reaching for the coffee cozy stuff just to get me through. Honestly, even that, this time regarding ways to prepare coffees for roasting, wasn't as good as some of the other books, which are really detailed, and they spend a lot of time discussing. I'm giving this one 3 stars, but it's mainly based on Claire, Madame when she was there, and Matt, Claire's ex, who is just a great character. I really hope Book 9 is a vast improvement, and as I said, I end up giving this one, disappointingly, 3 stars. The next book that I read was this book, Murder by Mocha, which is book number 10 in that same series, the Coffee House mystery series by Cleo Coyle. Once again, it is an adult cozy mystery, and well, I also gave this one 3 stars. So the premise of this book is Claire's village blend beans are being used to create a new Java love potion, a mocha magic coffee billed as an aphrodisiac. The product, expected to rake in millions, will be sold exclusively on Aphrodite's Village, one of the web's most popular online communities for women. But the launch party ends on a sour note when one of the website's editors is found dead. Sadly, my thoughts on this one is that there was no real improvement on book 9. I was really hoping to love the mocha moments of the book, but even that didn't exactly wow me. Again, as with book 9, I love when Madame is there, but she's not there enough. The reveal once again was a letdown. The book isn't horrible. It didn't deserve 1 or even 2 stars, but it also wasn't amazing for me. So I gave it 3 stars, as with the last one. So I will be continuing on with my coffee house reads, but yeah, just sadly, these two that I read this in the month of January were an average read for me. But let's no longer talk about average reads. Let's talk about a book that I had so much fun with, as I am overall the entire series. The next book that I read was this book, Death of an Italian Chef by Lee and Hollis. This is book number 14 in the Hayley Powell Food and Cocktail Mystery series. It is an adult cozy mystery, and I gave this book an overwhelming 5 stars. I love this series so much, if you can't already tell. In this series, we follow our protagonist, whose name is Hayley Powell. Hayley works for a newspaper where she writes columns that she'll write about a life experience she's had in her column and then link it to a cocktail and then a food recipe. And I love that. These columns are dispersed, pieced and parceled all throughout the book. And so I love reading the columns when they do come up. Lee and Hollis. So the author on the book, Lee Hollis, is 2 authors. It's dual written. So we have Lee, who is the brother, and Hollis, who is the sister. Hollis writes the columns, Lee writes the narrative. But as much as I love the column, I love the narrative too. I love Hayley. I love Hayley's friends. I love her brother. I love her brother's partner, who just so happens to be the town cop. It is a fantastic ride all the way through. But in this particular one, as the food and cocktails columnist for the Island Times, it's Hayley Powell's job to stay on top of the latest eateries in town. Chef Romeo, a successful restaurateur from New York City, has opened an establishment called, naturally, Romeo's. When the chef actually does suffer a mild heart attack, he ends up sharing a hospital room with Hayley's brother Randy, who's there for gallbladder surgery. Chef Romeo has tasted Hayley's cooking and asks her to take over his restaurant while he's laid up, but this temporary gig may turn permanent after the chef dies from complications. Only thing is, Randy tells a different story. He might have been sedated, but Hayley's brother swears he saw someone come into their room and put Romeo out of his misery. So to my thoughts, this was a pleasure and a joy to read. I am so happy this series was recommended to me once upon a time, and I'm only sad that I'm so very close now to being up to date with the series. I loved the Italian restaurant cozy side of the book, as well as the Italian themed food in Hayley's column. The mystery was intriguing given Randy's involvement. One con was Sergio, Randy's boyfriend, was not in this one, but he should be back in the next one. Bruce, Haley's partner, wasn't with Haley in this one, but I didn't really miss him, to be honest. It was a great book, and while I don't want to be up to date, as I'd need to wait for the next book to be published, I am very much looking forward to reading book number 15, an overwhelming 5 stars from me. So the next book that I read was this book, The Raven King by Nora Sakovic. This is book number 2 in the All for the Game series. It is marketed as a YA LGBTIQ plus series and book. I have to disagree. We'll talk about that a little later on. But yeah, as I say, it's by Nora Sakovic, and I ended up giving this book, book number 2, a total of 4 stars. So, okay. Yeah, it's marketed as a YA LGBTIQ plus contemporary. I do agree that it's a YA contemporary. I do not agree that it's an LGBTIQ plus book. Our protagonist is asexual, but his sexuality doesn't really matter. It comes up in one sentence in book 1 that he is asexual, and then they drop it and don't revisit that again. There is a side character who just so happens to be gay, but we don't really follow him or see him in any relationships. So there's no real LGBTIQ plus themes that are carried out directly, that we directly see through the course of the series. And I've now read 2 out of the 3 books in this trilogy. So to me, I don't understand why it's being marketed as an LGBTIQ plus series, and I hope that there'll be LGBTIQ plus themes in book 3, because if not, then why is it rated that? But anyway, so I'm just giving you the heads up. Don't go into this book for the LGBTIQ plus themes because they are practically non-existent. Go into this series for the go into this series for the YA contemporary themes following a sporting team and all the different personalities of each individual team member on that team and how they interact with one another. So that's what I would say. In this particular second book, Rico is intent on destroying Neil, who is our protagonist's fragile new life, and the foxes have just become collateral damage. Neil's days are numbered, but he's learning the hard way to go down fighting for what he believes in, and Neil believes in Andrew, even if Andrew won't believe in himself, which really does make this book sound like an LGBTIQ plus book, but it's not. They're just friends. So, to my thoughts, and I have to say that aside from the whole snafu with it being categorized as an LGBTIQ plus book with non-existent LGBTIQ plus themes, I loved the contemporary side with the camaraderie of the foxes in book 1 and continue to love it in book 2. Everyone in the team is different, have different backstories, and interact with Neil, our main character, differently, and I truly appreciated that. There is a trigger warning in this particular book for sexual assault. You don't see the assault itself, but you do see the aftermath in a very graphic way, so do be mindful of that. That aside, the ending was interesting, and I'm intrigued to see what will happen now after what happened between Neil and the Raven Boy, which we don't know most of, but I'm sure will be revealed in book number 3. And I gave this book 4 stars. So the next book that I read was this book, Farm to Trouble by Amanda Flower. This is the first book in the Farm to Table mystery series. It is an adult cozy mystery. And given that Amanda Flower is my favorite female author, not just female cozy author, but favorite female author of all time, disappointingly, I gave this book 3 stars. Now, the premise of this book is that Shiloh Bellamy cashed in her big city job and 401k to return home to Michigan to save her family farm, but turning Bellamy Farms into a sustainable organic operation complete with a farm-to-table cafe is no small feat, especially when her new investor is found dead among the flowers just after the contract is signed. Now, Shiloh must clear her family's name and track down the real killer before her organic farm dreams wilt before her very eyes. So to my thoughts, and I picked up this book because I'm trying to read all of Amanda Flower's works. Sadly, the cozy side just did not work for me at all. The mystery was okay though, and the ending provided potential for growth within the series, which I really did appreciate. So I gave the book 3 stars, but most of those 3 stars came about because of the ending and the reveal of the mystery. So I'm looking forward to seeing the direction with which Amanda Flower will take the series now, going into book 2 and moving forward. But for book 1 overall, wasn't a massive fan, which is sad because, as I say, I love Amanda Flower. She's my favorite female author, but what can you do? We'll discuss book 2 when I get to it this month in February. But for this one, sadly, 3 stars. The next book that I read in the month of January was this book, Small Town Pride by Phil Stamper. This is a middle grade LGBTIQ plus book, and this time when I say LGBTIQ plus, I actually mean LGBTIQ plus, because it definitely was. And I gave this book an overwhelming 5 stars, and frankly, my Goodreads review heading for this book states Stamper shines again, because he absolutely did. I have read 2 of Phil Stamper's works so far and absolutely loved both of them. I have 2 more books to read after having finished this one, and Phil Stamper, everything he writes for me, everything he touches turns to gold when it comes to his works. You know how you have readers that say this writer writes for me? I definitely feel like Phil Stamper writes for me. And even though the other 2 books of his that I've read were YA and this one is middle grade, it was still a fantastic book, even though it was middle grade. So a big, huge congratulations to Phil Stamper on another fantastic success. So the premise of this book is when Jake's dad hangs a comically large pride flag in their front yard in an overblown show of love, the mayor begins to receive complaints. A few people are even concerned the flag will lead to something truly outlandish, a pride parade, except Jake doesn't think it's a ridiculous idea. Why can't they hold a pride festival in Barton Springs? The problem is, Jake knows he'll have to get approval from the town council, and the mayor won't be on his side. And as Jake and his friends try to find a way to bring pride to Barton Springs, it seems suspicious that the mayor's son, Brett, suddenly wants to spend time with Jake. But someone that cute couldn't possibly be in league with his mayoral mother, could he? So, to my thoughts, and as you can probably tell from that description alone, it's definitely a middle grade with middle grade themes rather than the young adult themes that would have come up in the other 2 books of Phil Stamper's that I've read. But in saying that, still, this was vintage Phil Stamper. Having read The Gravity of Us and As Far As You'll Take Me, I was already a Phil Stamper stan, but this book was categorized as middle grade, and so I went in cautiously, as I had only ever read YAs from him. I needn't have been worried though. Stamper shines as he always does. Jake is a character with such a cute, sweet, upbeat personality that it's hard not to love him. His best friend is so supportive of him, and the moments between Jake and the mayor's son are so adorable. Not as hard-hitting as the other 2 works I've read by Stamper, but still 100% worthy of the 5 stars that it received. I highly, highly, highly recommend this book. It was just beautiful, especially if you're reading something that's very hard-hitting and you want something to break up all those hard-hitting, more serious works like adult books that you read. Pick up Small Town Pride. It's a really fun read. The next book that I read was this book, Motorhomes, Maps and Murder, which is book number 5 in the Campus and Criminals series by Tonya Kappas. This is an adult cozy mystery, and I gave this book, I gave it something, we'll find out right now. I gave this book a total of 4 stars. So, yeah, I have had my qualms with the audiobook for this series. It is very Southern, and by Southern I don't mean South America, like I don't mean, Puerto Rico or whatever South America is. Argentina, is that South America? Who knows? I mean, it's very like, down south within America, like South Carolina or Texas or wherever. The narrator is very Texan. I don't know if it's meant to be. Well, it is actually. It's set in Texas, so I really shouldn't complain. The narrator's doing their job. But yeah, to me, and this is a personal thing, so just take it as that. It's a personal preference. To me, the accent that the narrator uses doesn't make this have a cozy feel. That's how I feel about it. And I read a number of these Campus and Criminals books this month, so I kind of got to a point where I really just got over the narration. But anyway, let's talk about the book itself, separating the narration from the actual plot itself. So the premise of this one, as I mentioned earlier, this is book number 5 in that series. And the premise of this one is Mae West, owner of Happy Trails Campground, never thought she would become an actress like her namesake. Calling herself an actress might be a far stretch, as she plays a minor role in the local Civil War reenactment Battle at Camp Wildcat. When the reenactment doesn't go as planned, no one but the two townsfolks... When the reenactment doesn't go as planned, not one, but two of the town's folks aren't playing dead, they were murdered. So to my thoughts, I thought it was okay. The first half was a little slow for me, and I didn't find myself interested in the reenactment at all, but once the murder happened halfway through the book, I found myself intrigued. I'm looking forward to continuing on with the series, and a special shout out to Agnes, Hank's grandmother. Hank, for those of you who don't know, is Mae West's partner, for want of a better word, like her boyfriend in the series, and his grandmother is just fantastic. So a massive shout out to her. But overall, just exclusively looking at the plot and the entertainment value for me, I gave this book 3 stars. So the next book that I picked up was book number 6, which is in that same series, Canyons, Caravans, and Cadavers. So once again, Campers and Criminals, book 6, written by Tonya Kappas, adult cozy mystery. And I gave this book a higher rating than I gave the last one. I gave this book a total of 4.5 stars, so a huge jump between books. So the premise of this one is when the principal of Normal High School asks Mae West to teach a semester on small-town economics, Mae is thrilled and happy to teach the young people. But when a fellow teacher and archery coach Roger Carlson is found stone-cold dead, face down in one of Happy Trail's campground campers with an arrow sticking out of his back, it puts a dampener on the thriving campground when tourists cancel their reservations and Mae's excitement to teach. So to my thoughts, this is one of my faves in the series, though not a 5-star read for me. I really enjoyed the mystery and Mae being offered the opportunity to teach. The reveal was good, and the final climax was very entertaining. I also loved the big thing that happened at the end with Hank, that I won't say what it is because it's a spoiler, but I did love that. And I gave it, as I said, 4.5 stars. So therefore, the next book that I read was this book, Hitches, Hideouts and Homicides, which is book number 7 in the Campers and Criminals series. Do you see what I mean? It was book after book after book. But I am trying to read the entire series this year. I came into 2024 having read the first 4 books in this series, and at the moment there are currently 36 books in this series. So if I read 3 a month, I should be up to date by the end of 2024. So for this particular one, same stats as earlier. Tonya Kappas, the author, adult cozy mystery, yeah, all that kind of stuff. And I gave this particular one a total of 3 stars. So the premise of this book is everyone in Normal is excited for the hoedown to celebrate the opening of the new old train station motel. The evening comes to an abrupt end when a lightning storm knocks out all the power. At least that's what appears to have knocked out the electricity. But things aren't always as they appear. Mae West has a way of sticking her nose where it doesn't belong and finds herself in a dangerous situation when she finds a treasure map that leads to more than just treasure, a dead body. So, to my thoughts, and it's been an up and down journey for me with Campers and Criminals. Sometimes I like the cozy side, sometimes I like the reveal, sometimes I like the mystery. With this one, I liked the cozy side. The whole hoedown thing was fun, but the mystery just wasn't that intriguing for me. So it got an average rating of 3 stars. Yeah, the hoedown was a lot of fun. Really enjoyed that experience. Tonya Kappas wrote that really well. I felt like I was literally there, experiencing the hoedown among the other characters, but the mystery itself just really did not intrigue me at all. So this one got an average rating of 3 stars, as did the one I read 2 before that. But the one that I read in the middle, Campers, Criminals, and Cadavers, got 4.5. So that's good. And I'll keep reading them next month, and hopefully all of the ones I read next month will get 4.5 stars or higher. All right. So to the next book that I read in the month of January 2024, and that was this book, Origins of an Academy Bully. This is book 0.5 in the Zodiac Academy series by Caroline Peckham and Susan Valenti. This is marketed as a new adult fantasy. I don't generally like the categorization of new adult. So for me personally, I call it an adult fantasy. And I gave this particular book a total of 5 overwhelming stars. So last year I read book 1, book 1.5, and book 2 in the Zodiac Academy series, and I absolutely loved them, but I put an embargo on myself at a certain point. I think it was in like March or April, maybe even May, where I wasn't allowing myself to read more fantasies because I wanted to catch up and have read an equal number of books from all different genres, and I felt that I had read too many fantasies. One thing that was tough for me about that embargo was leaving Zodiac Academy where I did, because I loved this series so much. So once we got into the new year, I knew I wanted to put Zodiac Academy onto my SAS list so that I could complete the series. I found out while putting it onto my SAS list that there was a novella, a 0.5 book to the series, which sets up everything, kind of lays a foundation for book 1 and moving forward. And so I was really appreciative of that and finally picked it up this month. So yeah, the premise of this one is that, as I say, it is a prequel novella set 5 years before Zodiac Academy The Awakening, book 1. It explores Darius, who is the main bully in the story, coming into his elemental abilities, as well as the binding between himself and Orion. So if you've read book 1, and this is not a spoiler because it comes up very early on, so we're in this magical world, and there is the main bully, his name is Darius. Darius is magically bound to another magical being for many and varying reasons that I won't get into because that is a spoiler. In this book, part of what we explore is how they came to be bound together and why they came to be bound together. But yeah, we also explore Darius coming in to his elemental abilities, which was interesting as well. So to my thoughts, it's always wonderful to go back and read more Zodiac Academy, but this book had something extra special. The origins of the original Academy bully in Darius. This book really connects the dots. It makes sense why Darius is the way he is, given everything he went through in the book. I also appreciated getting to see the binding between Darius and Orion. It might have been a heck of a lot shorter than the other books, which I think the next book I'm up to, which is The Reckoning, is 650 pages long, and this one was like 150, so it's very much shorter than the others. But I have to say, that doesn't mean it was a disappointing book. Caroline Peckham and Susan Valenti have something incredibly special on their hands, and truly it has been an honor and an absolute joy to read this series so far, including this origin tale. And I gave this book an overwhelming 5 stars, and at the time of recording, I am literally reading book number 2 at the moment. I'm up to chapter 2 in The Reckoning, which is book number 3 in the Zodiac Academy series. So I loved the origin tale. If you've read the series but not the 0.5 novella, I highly recommend it. It explains so much about Darius and Orion, so I highly recommend it, and highly recommend the series as well. Trigger warning for bullying, obviously. It is Zodiac Academy is a fantasy romance with there being some romance bullying involved, so trigger warning for that, but if you can handle it, my goodness, is it worth it. It is like Harry Potter for adults. It is so fantastic, but also can be very spicy, so there's a warning as well for you. So now to the final book that I read this month, and that book was this one, 5 on a Treasure Island, which is book number 1 in the Famous 5 series by Enid Blyton. This is a middle grade classic, and I gave this particular book a total of 4 stars. So I had read 5 of the Famous 5 books growing up, and I absolutely loved them to pieces. I decided to find out how many books there were in the series and add it to my SAS list. I found out late last year there were 21 books in the series, and for Christmas my mother purchased me the box set of all 21 books, and I'm going to go through all of them this year. This book, 5 on a Treasure Island, I had not read before, so it was my first time reading it. So the premise of this one is there's a shipwreck off Kirin Island, but where's the treasure? The Famous 5 are on the trail looking for clues, but they're not alone. Someone else has got the same idea. Time is running out for the Famous 5, Who will follow the clues and get to the treasure first? So as I said, with my thoughts, I grew up reading some of the books in this massive series, and I'm thrilled to be taking part in an entire series binge in 2024. This first book, as I mentioned, I had not read, but I appreciated this first read of it as it laid a solid foundation moving forward. Not only did it explore George meeting her cousins for the first time, but it also introduces Timmy and explains how George first found Timmy and how it was that he came to live with her. It was a great, great start for the series. Yeah, a great book, not as good as some of the others I read, but still a fantastic start to the series, and I gave it 4 stars, which is a really good rating. And that is it. So imagine me holding the entire pile in front of me and saying, and now for everyone's favourite game that we like to call Up. These are all the books that I read in the month of January 2024. What books did you read in the month of January 2024? Let me know in the comments section below. But in the meantime, that is where I am going to leave it, letting you all go with peace, blessings, and so much love. Please do be kind and love one another, and spread your sparkling energy all throughout the world. And until next time, happy reading! Bye everyone!